The Aeolian Harp by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Tucker. Composed at Clevedon, Somersetshire. My pensive Sarah, thy soft cheek reclined thus on mine arm, most soothing sweet it is to sit beside our cot o'ergrown with white-flowered jasmine and the broad-leaved myrtle, meet emblems they of innocence and love, and watch the clouds, that late were rich with light, slow saddening round, and mark the star of eve, serenely brilliant, such should wisdom be, shine opposite. How exquisite the sense, snatched from yon beanfield, and the world so hushed! The stilly murmur of the distant sea tells us of silence. And that simplest lute, placed lengthways in the clasping casement, hark! How by the desultory breeze caressed! Like some coy maid half yielding to her lover, it pours such sweet upbraiding as must needs tempt to repeat the wrong. And now, its strings boldlier swept, the long sequacious notes over delicious surges sink and rise. Such a soft floating witchery of sound as twilight elfins make, when they at eve voyage on gentle gales from fairyland, where melodies round honey-dropping flowers, footless and wild, like birds of paradise, nor pause nor perch, hovering on untamed wing. Oh, the one life within us and abroad, which meets all motion and becomes its soul, a light in sound, a sound like power in light, rhythm in all thought, and joyance everywhere. Methinks it should have been impossible not to love all things in a world so filled, where the breeze warbles and the mute still air is music slumbering on her instrument. And thus, my love, as on the midway slope of yonder hill I stretch my limbs at noon, whilst through my half-closed eyelids I behold the sunbeams dance like diamonds on the main, and tranquil muse upon tranquillity. Full many a thought uncalled and undetained, and many idle flitting fantasies, traverse my indolent and passive brain, as wild and various as the random gales that swell and flutter on this subject lute. And what if all of animated nature be but organic harps diversely framed, that tremble into thought as o'er them sweeps, plastic and vast, one intellectual breeze, at once the soul of each and God of all? But thy more serious eye a mild reproof darts, O beloved woman, nor such thoughts, dim and unhallowed, dost thou not reject, and biddest me walk humbly with my God. Meek daughter in the family of Christ, well hast thou said and holily dispraised these shapings of the unregenerate mind, bubbles that glitter as they rise and break on vain philosophy's eye-babbling spring. For never guiltless may I speak of him, the incomprehensible, save when with awe I praise him, and with faith that inly feels, who with his saving mercies healed me, a sinful and most miserable man, wildered and dark, and gave me to possess peace and this cot and thee, heart-honoured maid. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Another Spring by Christina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Julia Adriana. If I might see another spring, I'd not plant summer flowers and wait. I'd have my crocuses at once, my leafless pink mesyrions, my chill-veined snowdrops, choicer yet, my white or azure violet, leaf-nested primrose, anything, to blow at once, not late. If I might see another spring, I'd listen to the daylight birds that build their nests and pair and sing, nor wait for mateless nightingale. I'd listen to the lusty herds, the ewes with lambs as white as snow. I'd find out music in the hail and all the winds that blow. If I might see another spring, O stinging comment on my past, that all my past results in if. If I might see another spring, I'd laugh today. Today is brief. I would not wait for anything. I'd use today that cannot last. Be glad today and sing. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ballad of Prose and Rhyme by Austin Dobson. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. When the ways are heavy with mire and rut, in November fogs, in December snows, when the north wind howls and the doors are shut, there is a place and enough for the pains of prose. But whenever a scent from the white thorn blows, and the jasmine stars at the casement climb, and a roslyn face at the lattice shows, then hey for the ripple of laughing rhyme. When the brain gets dry as an empty nut, when the reason stands on its squarest toes, when the mind, like a beard, has a formal cut, there is a place and enough for the pains of prose. But whenever the May blood stirs and glows, and the young year draws to the golden prime, and Sir Romeo sticks in his ear a rose, then hey for the ripple of laughing rhyme. In a theme where the thoughts have a pedant strut, in a changing quarrel of eyes and nose, in a starched procession of if and but, there is a place and enough for the pains of prose. But whenever a soft glance softer grows, and the light hours dance to the trysting time, and the secret is told that no one knows, then hey for the ripple of laughing rhyme. Envoy. In the workaday world, for its needs and woes, there is a place and enough for the pains of prose. But whenever the May bells class and chime, then hey for the ripple of laughing rhyme. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Boy's Song by James Hogg. Recording for LibriVox.org. Where the pools are bright and deep, where the gray trout lies asleep, up the river and over the lea, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the blackbird sings the latest, where the hawthorn blooms the sweetest, where the nestlings chirp and flee, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the mowers mow the cleanest, where the hay lies thick and greenest, there to track the homeward bee, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the hazel bank is steepest, where the shadow falls the deepest, where the clustering nuts fall free, that's the way for Billy and me. Why the boys should drive away, little sweet maidens from the play, or love to banter and fight so well, that's the thing I never could tell. But this I know, I love to play, through the meadow among the hay, up the water and over the lea, that's the way for Billy and me. End of A Boy's Song. This recording is in the public domain.
Christ is Coming by Dora Borson. Read for LibriVox.org by S.K. Dove. Little children, Christ is coming, coming through the flaming sky, to convey his trusting children to their glorious home on high. Do you love the Lord's appearing? Are you waiting for the day when with all his shining angels he will come in grand array? All who keep the 10 Commandments will rejoice his face to see, but the wicked filled with anguish from his presence then will flee. Now while yet probation lingers, now while mercy's voice is heard, haste to give your heart to Jesus, seek to understand his word. Quickly help to spread the message, you to Christ some soul may turn, though the multitudes his goodness and his tender love may spurn. Little children, Christ is coming, even God's beloved Son. When in glory he descendeth, will he say to you, well done. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Clay by Edward Verrill Lucas. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. We are but clay, the preacher saith. The heart is clay, and clay the brain, and soon or late there cometh death to mingle us with earth again. Well, let the preacher have it so, and clay we are, and clay shall be. Why iterate? For this I know, that clay does very well for me. When clay has such red mouths to kiss, firm hands to grasp, it is enough. How can I take it aught amiss we are not made of rarer stuff? And if one tempt you to believe his choice would be immortal gold, question him. Can you then conceive a warmer heart than clay can hold? Or richer joys than clay can feel? And when perforce he falters nay, bid him renounce his wish, and kneel in thanks for the same kindly clay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Cold is the Earth by Edith Nesbit. Read for LibriVox.org by Rachel May Ferriman. Cold is the earth, the flowers below, fearful of winter's hand, lie curled. But spring will come again, you know, and glorify the world. Dark is the night, no stars or moon, but at its blackest night is done. All after hastens to the noon, the triumph of the sun. And life is short, and love is brief. Be patient, there will be, they say, new life, divine beyond belief, somewhere, somehow, someday. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Contented Frog by Palmer Cox. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The frog that once in Selby's dam its weird music shed, now lies as mute as stranded clam, because that frog is dead. So sleeps the plague of former days, so noisy nights are o'er, and he now on the pond decays, who long cried, "Sleep no more." A frog upon a log one day in meditation sat, and gazed upon his pond that lay still as a tanner's vat. No fish swam in his fetid lake, no current seaward run, but hemmed by grasses, weed, and brake, it mantled in the sun. At length from reverie he woke, and thus to free his mind, he in the guttural's jargon spoke, peculiar to his kind. "Give me my slimy pool," quoth he, "before a river wide, where cranes are found, still wading round, and hungry fishes glide. Here light first dawned, here I was spawned, and here I make my home. Those longest live who are not inclined in foreign parts to roam. Upon this log or stone I sit, the waterfly to view, or watch the glossy whirligig describe his circles true. How foolish are some pollywogs, before they've lost their tails, they often class themselves with frogs, and leave their native swales. And while exploring down some ditch beneath a scorching ray, upon a sandy bar they hitch, and bake as dry as hay. Had they but waited till the tail had from their body dropped, and in its stead 4 legs shot forth, away they might have hopped. Thus while he sat above the pool, commenting on his lot, he heard a truant boy from school come whistling to the spot. "Aha!" quoth he, "I hear, I see an ancient foe of mine. He stones will throw, that well I know, and straight ones I divine. The sparrow on the picket fence, the squirrel on the limb, the swallow flying overhead, alike look out for him. There are some hands I scarcely fear, so ill a stone they guide. But when Bob Stevenson is near, 'tis meet that I should hide. So prompted by the fearful thought, he leaped in with a thud, and diving to the bottom, sought concealment in the mud. Now burrow, burrow, little frog, as you will trouble find. Think not because your eyes are shut that every one is blind. Then burrow deeper, deeper far. Leave not one claw in view, or swifter than a falling star, stone will cleave you through. "Wall, here," said he, "I'm safe enough, and here I'll peaceful lie, until the little whistling ruff has passed the water by." But while he did reckon that the host was not around, the youngster saw him quit the log, and soon a stone was found. He stood beside the circling pond, and gazed a while below. The telltale mud the frog disturbed rose from the bottom slow. But for childhood's searching eyes, what can escape their darts? Projecting from the mud he spies the croaker's hinder parts. "Ho, ho!" then laughed this cruel boy, as downward he did stare. "If you from trouble would be free, of every part take care." Then down he sent the ready stone, nor went it down in vain. Dead as the missile that was thrown, the frog came up again. Along the river's ferny banks the frogs still chant their lays, while floating on his native pool that stone-killed frog decays. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Embryo by Mary Ashley Townsend. Read for LibriVox.org by Crystal8608. I feel a poem in my heart tonight, a still thing growing, as if the darkness to the outer light a song were owing, a something strangely vague and sweet and sad, fair, fragile, slender, not tearful, yet not daring to be glad, and oh so tender. It may not reach the outer world at all, despite its growing. Upon a poem bud such cold winds fall, to blight its blowing. But oh, whatever may the thing betide, free life or fetter, my heart, just to have held it till it died, will be the better. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fallen Majesty by William Butler Yeats. Read for LibriVox.org by Chris Garza. Although crowds gathered once if she but showed her face, and even old men's eyes grew dim, this hand alone, like some last courtier at a gypsy camping place babbling of fallen majesty, records what's gone. The lineaments, a heart that laughter has made sweet, these remain, but I record what's gone. A crowd will gather, and not know it walks the very street whereon a thing once walked that seemed a burning cloud. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. By William Ross Wallace. Recording from LibriVox.org. Blessings on the hand of woman. Angels guard its strength and grace. In the palace, cottage, hovel, oh, no matter where the place. Would that never storms assailed it, rainbows ever gently curled, for the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Infancy's the tender fountain, power may with beauty flow, mothers first to guide the streamlets, from them souls unresting grow on for the good or evil, sunshine streamed or evil hurled, for the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Woman, how divine your mission here upon our natal sod. Keep, oh keep the young heart open, always to the breath of God. All true trophies of the ages are from mother love impearled, for the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Blessings on the hand of woman. Fathers, sons, and daughters cry, and the sacred song is mingled with the worship in the sky, mingles where no tempest darkens, rainbows evermore are hurled, for the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. End of The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. This recording is in the public domain.
Hannah Jane by Petroleum V. Nasby. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. She isn't half so handsome as when 20 years agone, at her old home in Piketon, Parson Avery made us one. The great house crowded full of guests of every degree, the girls all envying Hannah Jane, the boys all envying me. Her fingers then were taper, and her skin as white as milk. Her brown hair, what a mess it was, and soft and fine as silk. No wind-moved willow by a brook had ever such a grace, the form of Aphrodite with a pure Madonna face. She had but meager schooling, her little notes to me were full of crooked pothooks and the worst orthography. Her dear she spelled with double E, and kiss with but one S, but when one's crazed with passion, what's a letter more or less? She blundered in her writing, and she blundered when she spoke, and every rule of syntax that old Murray made she broke. But she was beautiful and fresh, and well, I was young. Her form and face o'erbalanced all the blunders of her tongue. I was but little better. True, I'd longer been at school. My tongue and pen were run, perhaps a little more by rule, but that was all. The neighbors round, who both of us well knew, said, which I believed, she was the better of the two. All's changed. The light of 17's no longer in her eyes. Her wavy hair is gone, that lost the coiffer's art supplies. Her form is thin and angular, she slightly forward bends. Her fingers, once so shapely, now are stumpy at the ends. She knows but very little, and in little are we one. The beauty rare that more than hid that great defect is gone. My parvenu relations now deride my homely wife, and pity me that I am tied to such a clod for life. I know there is a difference at reception and levee. The brightest, wittiest, and most famed of women smile on me, and everywhere I hold my place among the greatest men, and sometimes sigh with Whittier's judge, alas, it might have been. When they all crowd around me, stately dames in brilliant bells, and yield to me the homage that all great success compels, discussing art and statecraft and literature as well, from Homer down to Thackeray and Swedenborg on hell. I can't forget that from these streams my wife has never quaffed, has never with Ophelia wept, nor with Jack Falstaff laughed. Of authors, actors, artists, why she hardly knows the names. She slept while I was speaking on the Alabama claims. I can't forget, just at this point another form appears, the wife I wedded as she was before my prosperous years. I travel o'er the dreary road we traveled side by side, and wonder what my share would be if justice should decide. She had $400 left her from the old estate. On that we married, and thus poorly armored faced our fate. I wrestled with my books. Her task was harder far than mine. 'Twas how to make $200 do the work of 9. At last I was admitted. Then I had my legal lore, an office with a stove and desk, of books perhaps a score. She had her beauty and her youth, and some housewifely skill, and love for me, and faith in me, and back of that a will. Ah, how she cried for joy when my first legal fight was won, when our eclipse passed partly by, and we stood in the sun. The fee was $50. 'Twas the work of half a year, first captive lean and scraggy of my legal bow and spear. I well remember when my coat, the only one I had, was seedy grown and threadbare, and in fact most shocking bad. The tailor's stern remark when I a modest order made, "Cash is the basis, sir, on which we tailors do our trade." Her winter cloak was in his shop by noon that very day. She wrought on hickory shirts at night that tailors skill to pay. I got a coat and wore it, but alas, poor Hannah Jane ne'er went to church or lecture till warm weather came again. Our second season she refused a cloak of any sort, that I might have a decent suit in which to appear in court. She made her last year's bonnet do, that I might have a hat. Talk of the old-time flame-enveloped martyrs after that. No Negro ever worked so hard a servant's pay to save. She made herself most willingly a household drudge and slave. What wonder that she never read a magazine or book, combining as she did in one, nurse, housemaid, seamstress, cook. What wonder that the beauty fled that I once so adored. Her beautiful complexion my fierce kitchen fire devoured. Her plump, soft, rounded arm was once too fair to be concealed. Hard work for me that softness into sinewy strength congealed. I was her altar, and her love the sacrificial flame. Ah, with what pure devotion she to that altar came, and tearful flung thereon, alas, I did not know it then, all that she was, and more than that, all that she might have been. At last I won success. Ah, then our lives were wider parted. I was far up the rising road, she, poor girl, where we started. I had tried my speed and mettle, and gained strength in every race. I was far up the heights of life, she drudging at the base. She made me take each fall the stump. She said 'twas my career. The wild applause of listening crowds was music to my ear. What stimulus had she to cheer her dreary solitude? For me she lived on gladly in unnatural widowhood. She couldn't read my speech, but when the papers all agreed 'twas the best one of the session, those comments she could read, and with a gush of pride thereat, which I had never felt, she sent them to me in a note with half the words misspelt. At 28 the State House, on the bench at 33, at 40 every gate in life was opened wide to me. I nursed my powers and grew, and made my point in life. But she, bearing such pack-horse weary loads, what could a woman be? What could she be? Oh, shame! I blush to think what she has been. The most unselfish of all wives, to the selfishest of men. Yes, plain and homely now she is. She's ignorant, 'tis true. For me she rubbed herself quite out. I represent the two. Well, I suppose that I might do as other men have done. First break her heart with cold neglect, then shove her out alone. The world would say 'twas well, and more would give great praise to me for having borne with such a wife so uncomplainingly. And shall I? No. The contract twixt Hannah, God, and me was not for 1 or 20 years, but for eternity. No matter what the world may think, I know down in my heart that if either I'm delinquent, she has bravely done her part. There's another world beyond this, and on the final day will intellect and learning 'gainst such devotion weigh. When the great one made of us two is torn apart again, I'll yield the palm, for God is just, and he knows Hannah Jane. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Her Horoscope by Mary Ashley Townsend. Read for LibriVox.org by Crystal8608. 'Tis true, one half of woman's life is hope, and one half resignation. Between there lies anguish of broken dreams, doubt, dire surprise, and then is born the strength with all to cope. Unconsciously sublime, life's shadowed slope, she braves, the knowledge in her patient eyes, of all that love bestows and love denies. As writ in every woman's horoscope, she lives, her heartbeats given to others' needs, her hands to lift for others on the way, the burdens which their weariness forsook. She dies, an uncrowned doer of great deeds. Remembered? Yes, as is for one brief day, the rose one leaves in some forgotten book. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Horses and Men in Rain by Carl Sandburg. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Let us sit by a hissing steam radiator a winter's day, gray wind pattering frozen raindrops on the window, and let us talk about milk wagon drivers and grocery delivery boys. Let us keep our feet in wool slippers and mix hot punches, and talk about mail carriers and messenger boys slipping along the icy sidewalks. Let us write of olden golden days and hunters of the Holy Grail, and men called knights riding horses in the rain, in the cold frozen rain, for ladies they loved. A roustabout hunched on a coal wagon goes by, icicles drip on his hat rim, sheets of ice wrapping the hunks of coal, the caravansary a gray blur and slant of rain. Let us nudge the steam radiator with our wool slippers and write poems of Lancelot the hero, and Roland the hero, and all the olden golden men who rode horses in the rain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
How Do I Love Thee? Sonnet 43 by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Read for LibriVox.org by Emily Jacobson. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being an ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with the love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life, and if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In the Woods by George Meredith. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. In the Woods. 1. Hillsides are dark, and hilltops reach the star, and down is the lark, and I from my mark am far. Unlighted I foot the ways. I know that a dawn is before me, and behind me many days, not what is o'er me. 2. I am in deep woods, between the two twilights. Whatsoever I am and may be, write it down to the light in me. I am I, and it is my deed, for I know that paths are dark between the two twilights. My foot on the nodding weed, my hand on the wrinkled bark, I have made my choice to proceed by the light I have within, and the issue rests with me, who might sleep in a chrysalis, in the fold of a simple prayer, between the two twilights. Flying safe from even to morn, not stumbling abroad in air that shudders to touch and to kiss, and is unfraternal and thin, self-hunted in it, forlorn, unloved, unresting, bare, between the two twilights. Having naught but the light in me, which I take for my soul in arms, resolved to go unto the wells for water, rejecting spells and mouthings of magic for charms, and the cup that does not flow. I am in deep woods, between the two twilights. Over valley and hill I hear the woodland wave, like the voice of time, as slow, the voice of life, as grave, the voice of death, as still. 3. Take up thy song from woods and fields while thou hast heart, and living yields delight. Let that expire, let thy delight in living die. Take thou thy song from star and sky, and join the silent choir. 4. With the butterfly roaming abroad on the sunny March day, the pine cones opened, and blew winged seeds, and aloft they flew butterfly-like in the ray, and hung to the breeze. Spinning they fell to the sod. Ask you my rhyme which shall be trees? They have had their time. 5. I know that since the hour of birth, rooted in earth, I have looked above in joy and grief, with eyes of belief, for love. A mother trains us so. But the love I saw was a fitful thing. I looked on the sun that clouds or is blinding aglow, and the love around had more of wing than substance, and of spirit none. Then looked I on the green earth we are rooted in, whereof we grow, and nothing of love it said, but gave me warnings of sin, and lessons of patience let fall, and told how pain was bred, and wherefore I was weak, and of good and evil at strife, and the struggle upward of all, and my choice of the glory of life. Was love farther to seek? 6. The lover of life holds life in his hand like a ring for the bride. The lover of life is free of dread. The lover of life holds life in his hand as the hills hold the day. But lust after life waves life like a brand for an ensign of pride. The lust after life is life half dead. Yea, lust after life hugs life like a brand, dreading air and the ray. For the sake of life, for that life is dear, the lust after life clings to it fast. For the sake of life, for that life is fair, the lover of life flings it broadcast. The lover of life knows his labor divine, and therein is at peace. The lust after life craves a touch and a sign that the life shall increase. The lust after life, in the chills of its lust, claims a passport of death. The lover of life sees the flame in our dust, and a gift in our breath. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Is It All Vanity? By Edward Bulwer Lyttle, 1803 to 1873. Read for LibriVox.org. Is it all vanity? Doubting of life, my spirit paused perplexed, let fall its fardel of laborious care, and the sharp cry of my great trouble vexed unsympathizing air. Out on this choice of unrewarded toil, this upward path into the realm of snow, oh, for one glimpse of the old happy soil, fragrant with flowers below. For what false gold, like alchemists, we yearn, wasting the wealth we never can recall, joy and life's lavish prime, and our return, ashes, cold ashes all. Could youth but dream what narrow burial urns hopes that went forth to conquer worlds should hold, how in a tomb the lamp experience burns amidst the dust of old. Look back, how all the beautiful ideal, sporting in doubtful moonlight, one by one fade from the rising of the hard-eyed real, like fairies from the sun. Love rendered saint-like by its pure devotion, knowledge exulting lone by shoreless seas, and feelings tremulous to each emotion, as May leaves to the breeze. And oh, that grand ambition, poet nursed, when boyhood's heart swells up to the sublime, and on the gaze the towers of glory first flash from the peaks of time. Are they then wiser who but nurse the growth of joys in life's most common element, creeping from hour to hour in that calm sloth which egoists call content? Who freight for storms no hopeful argosy, who watch no beacon wane on hilltops gray, who bound their all where from the human eye the horizon fades away. Alas for labor, if indeed more wise to drink life's tide unwitting where it flows. Renounce the arduous palm, and only prize the Cnidian vine and rose. Out from the porch the Stoic cries, for shame! What hast thou left us, Stoic, in thy school? That pain or pleasure is but in the name. Go prick thy finger, fool. Never grave Paulus, never muse severe charmed this hard life like the free, zoneless grace. Pleasure is sweet, in spite of every sneer on Zeno's wrinkled face. What gained and left ye to this age of ours, ye early priesthoods of the Isis, truth, when light first glimmered from the Cuthys towers, when Thebes was in her youth? When to the weird Chaldean spoke the seer, when Hades opened at Heraclean spells, when fate made nature her interpreter in leaves and murmuring wells, when the keen Greek chased flying science on, upward and up the infinite abyss, like Paris stars your arts themselves have gone noiseless to nothingness. And what is knowledge but the wizard's ring, kindling a flame to circumscribe a ground? The belt of light that lures the spirit's wing hems the invoker round. Ponder and ask again, what boots our toil? Can we the garden's wanton child gainsay, when from kind lips he culls their rosy spoil, and lives life's holiday? Life answers no. If ended here be life, seize what the sense can give, it is thine all. Disarm thee, virtue, barren is thy strife, knowledge, thy torch let fall. Seek thy lost Psyche, yearning love, no more. Love is but lust, if soul be only breath. Who would put forth one billow from the shore, if the great sea be death? But if the soul, that slow artificer, for ends its instinct rears from life hath striven, feeling beneath its patient web-work stir, wings only freed in heaven. Then, and but then to toil is to be wise, solved is a riddle of the grand desire, which ever, ever for the distant sighs, and must perforce aspire. Rise then, my soul, take comfort from thy sorrow. Thou feelest thy treasure when thou feelest thy load. Life without thought, the day without the morrow, God on the brute bestowed. Longings obscure as for a native clime, flight from what is to live in what may be, God gave the soul. Thy discontent with time proves thine eternity. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kaiser and Company by Alexander MacGregor Rose. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. Der Kaiser auf der Vaterland und Gott on high all things command. Wie to, ach, don't you understand? Mein Self und Gott. He reigns in heaven und always shall, und mein own empire don't was small, ein noble bear I think you call, mein Self und Gott. While some men thinks their power divine, mein soldiers sing der Wacht am Rhein, und ringt der Held in Rhenisch Wein auf me und Gott. There's France, dort Zwegge, all around, she's ausgespielt, she's no account, too much we thinks she don't amount, mein Self und Gott. She will not dare to fight again, but if she should, I'll show her plain dot Elsass und, in French, Lorraine are mine, und Gott. There's Grandma, thinks she's nicht schmoll Bier mit Boers und thinks she interfere. She'll learn none runs this hemisphere but me und Gott. She thinks, good Frau, some ships she's got, und soldiers mit der Scarlet Goat. Ach, we could knock them, puff, like dot, mein Self und Gott. In times of peace, prepared for wars, I bear der Helm und Speer auf Mars, und care nicht vor den 1000 Sars, mein Self und Gott. In short, I humour every whim mit Aspect dark und Visage grim. Gott pulls mit me, und I mit him, mein Self und Gott. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lament by Rainier Maria Rilke. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. Oh, all things are long passed away and far. A light is shining, but the distant star from which it still comes to me has been dead 1,000 years. In the dim phantom boat that glided past, some ghastly thing was said. A clock just struck within some house remote. Which house? I long to still my beating heart. Beneath the sky's vast dome I long to pray. Of all the stars, there must be far away a single star which still exists apart, and I believe that I should know the one which has alone endured, and which alone, like a white city that all space commands, at the ray's end, in the high heaven stands. End of Lament by Rainier Maria Rilke. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
The Lament of the Old Nurse by Aeschylus. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Our mistress bids me with all speed to call Aegisthus to the strangers, that he come and hear more clearly, as a man from man, this newly brought report. Before her slaves, under set eyes of melancholy cast, she hid her inner chuckle at the events that have been brought to pass. Too well for her, but for this house and hearth most miserably, as in the tale the stranger clearly told. He, when he hears and learns the story's gist, will joy, I trow, in heart. Ah, wretched me! How those old troubles, of all sorts made up, most hard to bear, in Atreus' palace halls, have made my heart full heavy in my breast. But never have I known a woe like this, for other ills I bore patiently. But as for dear Orestes, my sweet charge, whom from his mother I received and nursed, and then the shrill cries rousing me o' nights, and many and unprofitable toils for me who bore them. For one needs must rear the heedless infant like an animal. How can it else be, as his humour serve? For while a child is yet in swaddling clothes, it speaketh not, if either hunger comes, or passing thirst, or lower calls of need. And children's stomach works its own content. And I, though I foresaw this, call to mind how I was cheated, washing swaddling clothes, and nurse and laundress did the self-same work. I then with these my double handicrafts brought up Orestes for his father dear. And now, woe's me, I learn that he is dead, and go to fetch the man that mars this house, and gladly will he hear these words of mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Last Lines by Emily Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. No coward soul is mine, no trembler in the world's storm-troubled sphere. I see heaven's glories shine, and faith shines equal, arming me from fear. O God within my breast, almighty, ever-present deity, life that in me has rest, as I, undying life, have power in thee. Vain are the thousand creeds that move men's hearts, unutterably vain, worthless as withered weeds, or idlest froth amid the boundless main. To waken doubt in one, holding so fast by thine infinity, so surely anchored on the steadfast rock of immortality. With wide embracing love, thy spirit animates eternal years, pervades and broods above, changes, sustains, dissolves, creates and rears. Though earth and man were gone, and suns and universes ceased to be, and thou were left alone, every existence would exist in thee. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void. Thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lines to a Skunk Cabbage by Beth Max. Read for LibriVox.org by ALG 1001. O life grotesque! How whence did spring the thought that gave thee blossoming? How comes thy strange offensive bloom near knolls that give sweet violets room? Sweet violets which fill the air with perfumed incense of a prayer that floating to the world above calls blessings from the soul of love. But thou, mephitic bloom, thou hast a thought in thee of ages past, when songs of love were all unknown, ere earth had into beauty grown, ere rippling brook and soughing pine had turned her prose hills into rhyme, when all was dark and cold and bare. Thou hadst perhaps a mission there? And that is why, 'neath springtime snows, thy curious spathe so early grows? Hast thou no mission now, strange flower, happier to make spring's early hour? Hark! From thy close-wrapped heart doth come the working bee's glad soundful hum, where loads of pollen he doth find his waxen honey cells to bind. So thou hast place in fields of use, and vain are now words of abuse, giving the best thy heart doth hold to help the workers of the world, and giving thus with patient grace doth baser qualities efface, and in a better, higher sphere thine inner beauty doth appear, and thy developed soul shall be violet sweet eternally. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lone Dog by Irene Rutherford MacLeod. Read for LibriVox.org by Rachel May Ferriman. I'm a lean dog, a keen dog, a wild dog, and lone. I'm a rough dog, a tough dog, hunting on my own. I'm a bad dog, a mad dog, teasing silly sheep. I love to sit and bay the moon to keep fat souls from sleep. I'll never be a lapdog licking dirty feet, a sleek dog, a meek dog, cringing for my meat. Not for me the fireside, the well-filled plate, but shut door and sharp stone and cuff and kick and hate. Not for me the other dogs running by my side. Some have run a short while, but none of them would bide. Oh, mine is still the lone trail, the hard trail, the best. Wide wind and wild stars, and the hunger of the quest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Marshlands by Emily Pauline Johnson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. A thin wet sky that yellows at the rim and meets with sun-lost lip the marsh's brim. The pools low-lying, dank with moss and mold, glint through their mildews like large cups of gold. Among the wild rice in the still lagoon, in monotone the lizard shrills his tune. The wild goose, homing, seeks a sheltering where rushes grow and oozing lichens cling. Late cranes with heavy wing and lazy flight sail up the silence with the nearing night, and like a spirit swathed in some soft veil steals twilight and its shadows o'er the swale. Hushed lie the sedges, and the vapors creep, thick, gray, and humid, while the marshes sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Maternity by Alice Meynell. Read for LibriVox.org by Rachel May Ferriman. One wept, whose only babe was dead, newborn 10 years ago. Weep not, he is in bliss, they said. She answered, even so. 10 years ago was born in pain a child, not now forlorn. But oh, 10 years ago in vain, a mother was born. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Moonlight by Victoria Sackville West. Read for LibriVox.org by Czandra. Moonlight. What time the meanest brick and stone take on a beauty not their own, and past the flaw of builded wood shines the intention whole and good, and all the little homes of man rise to a dimmer, nobler span, when color's absence gives escape to the deeper spirit of the shape. Then earth's great architecture swells among her mountains and her fells, under the moon to amplitude massive and primitive and rude. Then do the clouds like silver flags stream out above the tattered crags, and black and silver all the coast marshals its hunched and rocky host, and headlands striding somberly buttress the land against the sea, the darkened land, the brightening wave, and moonlight slants through Merlin's cave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Mother's Sorrow by author unknown. Read for LibriVox.org by S.K. Dove. A company of Southern ladies assembled in a parlor were one day talking about their different troubles. Each had something to say about her own trials. But there was one in the company, pale and sad-looking, who for a while remained silent. Suddenly rousing herself, she said, "My friends, you do not any of you know what trouble is." "Will you please, Mrs. Gray," said the kind voice of one who knew her story, "tell the ladies what you call trouble?" "I will, if you desire it, for in the words of the prophet, I am the one who hath seen affliction. My parents were very well off, and my girlhood was surrounded by all the comforts of life. Every wish of my heart was gratified, and I was cheerful and happy. At the age of 19, I married one whom I loved more than all the world besides. Our home was retired, but the sun never shone upon a lovelier spot or a happier household. Years rolled on peacefully. 5 lovely children sat around our table, and a little curly head still nestled in my bosom. One night about sundown, one of those fierce black storms came up, which was so common to our southern climate. For many hours the rain poured down incessantly. Morning dawned, but still the elements raged. The country around us was overflowed. The little stream near our dwelling became a foaming torrent. Before we were aware of it, our house was surrounded by water. I managed with my babe to reach a little elevated spot where the thick foliage of a few widespread trees afforded some protection, while my husband and sons strove to save what they could of our property. At last, a fearful surge swept away my husband, and he never rose again. Ladies, no one ever loved a husband more, but that was not trouble. Presently my sons saw their danger, and the struggle for life became the only consideration. They were as brave, loving boys as ever blessed a mother's heart, and I watched their efforts to escape with such an agony as only mothers can feel. They were so far off that I could not speak to them, but I could see them closing nearer and nearer to each other as their little island grew smaller and smaller. The swollen river raged fearfully around the huge trees. Dead branches, upturned trunks, wrecks of houses, drowning cattle, and masses of rubbish all went floating past us. My boys waved their hands to me and then pointed upward. I knew it was their farewell signal, and you mothers can imagine my anguish. I saw them perish, all perish. Yet that was not trouble. I hugged my baby close to my heart, and when the water rose at my feet, I climbed into the low branches of the tree and so kept retiring before it till the hand of God stayed the waters and they should rise no farther. I was saved. All my worldly possessions were swept away. All my earthly hopes were blighted. Yet that was not trouble. My baby was all I had left on this earth. I labored day and night to support him and myself and sought to train him in the right way. But as he grew older, evil companions won him away from me. He ceased to care for his mother's counsels. He sneered at her entreaties and agonizing prayers. He became fond of drink. He left my humble roof that he might be unrestrained in his evil ways. And at last one night, when heated by wine, he took the life of a fellow creature. He ended his days upon the gallows. God had filled my cup of sorrow before. Now it ran over. That was trouble, my friends. Such as I hope the Lord of mercy will spare you from ever knowing. Boys and girls, can you bear to think that you might bring such sorrow on your dear father or mother? If you would not, be on your guard against intemperance. Let wine and liquors alone. Never touch them. Selected. Ah, none but a mother can tell you, sir, how a mother's heart will ache with the sorrow that comes of a sinning child, with grief for a lost one's sake, when she knows the feet she trained to walk have gone so far astray, and the lips grown bold with curses that she taught to sing and pray. A child may fear, a wife may weep, but of all sad things none other seems half so sorrowful to me as being a drunkard's mother. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Read by S.K. Dove.
My Country by Dorothea McKellar. Read for LibriVox.org by Mari. The love of field and coppice, of green and shaded lanes, of ordered woods and gardens, is running in your veins. Strong love of gray-blue distance, brown streams and soft, dim skies, I know but cannot share it. My love lies otherwise. I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons, I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me. The stark white ring-barked forests, all tragic to the moon, the sapphire-misted mountains, the hot gold hush of noon, green tangle of the brushes, where lithe lianas coil, and orchids deck the treetops, and ferns the warm dark soil. Core of my heart, my country, her pitiless blue sky, when sick at heart around us we see the cattle die. But then the gray clouds gather, and we can bless again the drumming of an army, the steady soaking rain. Core of my heart, my country, land of the rainbow gold, for flood and fire and famine she pays us back threefold. Over thirsty paddocks watch after many days the filmy veil of greenness that thickens as we gaze. An opal-hearted country, a wilful, lavish land, all who have not loved her you will not understand. Though earth holds many splendors, wherever I may die, I know to what brown country my homing thoughts will fly. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. My Doves by Louisa May Alcott. Read for LibriVox.org by Mari. Opposite my chamber window, on the sunny roof at play, high above the city's tumult, flocks of doves sit day by day. Shining necks and snowy bosoms, little rosy, tripping feet, twinkling eyes and fluttering wings, cooing voices low and sweet. Graceful games and friendly meetings do I daily watch and see, for these happy little neighbors always seem at peace to be. On my window ledge, to lure them, crumbs of bread I often strew, and, behind the curtain hiding, watch them flutter to and fro. Soon they cease to fear the giver, quick are they to feel my love, and my alms are freely taken by the shyest little dove. In soft flight they circle downward, peep in through the window pane, stretch their gleaming necks to greet me, peck and coo and come again. Faithful little friends and neighbors, for no wintry wind or rain, household cares or airy pastimes, can my loving birds restrain. Other friends forget or linger, but each day I surely know that my doves will come and leave here little footprints in the snow. So they teach me the sweet lesson that the humblest may give, help and hope, and in so doing, learn the truth by which we live. For the heart that freely scatters simple charities and loves lures home content and joy and peace, like a soft-winged flock of doves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Lady's Grave by Emily Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. The linnet in the rocky dells, the moor-lark in the air, the bee among the heather bells that hide my lady fair. The wild deer browse above her breast, the wild birds raise their brood, and they, her smiles of love caressed, have left her solitude. I ween that when the grave's dark wall did first her form retain, they thought their hearts could ne'er recall the light of joy again. They thought the tide of grief would flow unchecked through future years. But where is all their anguish now, and where are all their tears? Well, let them fight for honor's breath, or pleasure's shade pursue. The dweller in the land of death is changed and careless too. And if their eyes should watch and weep till sorrow's source were dry, she would not in her tranquil sleep return a single sigh. Blow, west wind, by the lonely mound, and murmur, summer streams. There is no need of other sound to soothe my lady's dreams. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nurse's Song, from Songs of Experience by William Blake. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. When the voices of children are heard on the green, and whisperings are in the dale, the days of my youth rise fresh in my mind, my face turns green and pale. Then come home, my children, the sun is gone down, and the dews of night arise. Your spring and your day are wasted in play, and your winter and night in disguise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Nurse's Song, from Songs of Innocence by William Blake. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. When voices of children are heard on the green, and laughing is heard on the hill, my heart is at rest within my breast, and everything else is still. Then come home, my children, the sun has gone down, and the dews of night arise. Come, come, leave off play, and let us away, till the morning appears in the skies. No, no, let us play, for it is yet day, and we cannot go to sleep. Besides, in the sky the little birds fly, and the hills are all covered with sheep. Well, well, go and play till the light fades away, and then go home to bed. The little ones leaped and shouted and laughed, and all the hills echoed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Our Lady of the Snows by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by TallyTiger. A nation spoke to a nation. A queen sent word to a throne. Daughter am I in my mother's house, but mistress in my own. The gates are mine to open, as the gates are mine to close. And I set my house in order, said Our Lady of the Snows, neither with laughter nor weeping, fear or the child's amaze. Soberly under the white man's law, my white men go their ways. Not for the gentile's glamour insult or threat of blows. Bow we the knee to Baal, said Our Lady of the Snows. My speech is clean and single. I talk of common things, words of the wharf and the marketplace, and the ware the merchant brings. Favor to those I favor, but a stumbling block to my foes. Many there be that hate us, said Our Lady of the Snows. I called my chiefs to council in the din of a troubled year. For the sake of a sign ye would not see, and a word ye would not hear. This is our message and answer, this is the path we choose. For we are also a people, said Our Lady of the Snows. Carry the word to my sisters, to the queens of the east and the south. I have proven faith in the heritage, by more than worth of mount. They that are wise may follow, ere the world's war trumpet blows. But I am first in the battle, said Our Lady of the Snows. A nation spoke to a nation, a throne sent word to a throne. Daughter am I in my mother's house, but mistress in my own. The gates are mine to open, as the gates are mine to close, and I abide by my mother's house, said Our Lady of the Snows. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Passing of March by Robert Burns Wilson. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. The braggart March stood in the season's door with his broad shoulders blocking up the way, shaking the snowflakes from the cloak he wore and from the fringes of his kirtle grey. Near by him April stood with tearful face, with violets in her hands, and in her hair pale wild anemones, the fragrant lace half parted from her breast, which seemed like fair dawn-tinted mountain snow smooth-drifted there. She on the blusterer's arm laid one white hand, but he would none of her soft blandishment. Yet did she plead with tears none might withstand, for even the fiercest hearts at least relent. And he at last, in ruffian tenderness, with one swift crushing kiss her lips did greet. Ah, poor starved heart! For that one rude caress, she cast her violets underneath his feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peacock Feathers by Hilda Conkling. Read for LibriVox.org by TallyTiger. On trees of fairyland grow peacock feathers of daylight colors, like an Austrian fan. But there is a strange thing. I have heard that night gathers these feathers for her cloak. I have heard that the stars, the moon, are the eyes of peacock feathers from fairy trees. It is a thing that may be, but I should not be sure of it, my dear, if I were you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Prisoner by Emily Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Still, let my tyrants know I am not doomed to wear, year after year in gloom and desolate despair. A messenger of hope comes every night to me, and offers for short life eternal liberty. He comes with western winds, with evening's wandering airs, with that clear dusk of heaven that brings the thickest stars. Winds take a pensive tone, and stars a tender fire, and visions rise and change that kill me with desire. Desire for nothing known in my maturer years, when joy grew mad with awe at counting future tears. When, if my spirit's sky was full of flashes warm, I knew not whence they came, from sun or thunderstorm. But first a hush of peace, a soundless calm descends. The struggle of distress and fierce impatience ends. Mute music soothes my breast, unuttered harmony that I could never dream till earth was lost to me. Then dawns the invisible, the unseen its truth reveals. My outward sense is gone, my inward essence feels. Its wings are almost free, its home, its harbor found. Measuring the gulf, it stoops, and dares the final bound. Oh, dreadful is the check, intense the agony, when the ear begins to hear, and the eye begins to see. When the pulse begins to throb, the brain to think again, the soul to feel the flesh, and the flesh to feel the chain. Yet I would lose no sting, would wish no torture less. The more that anguish wrecks, the earlier it will bless. And robed in fires of hell, or bright with heavenly shine, if it but herald death, the vision is divine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rabbi Ben Ezra by Robert Browning, 1812 to 1889. Read for LibriVox.org. Rabbi Ben Ezra. Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be, the last of life for which the first was made. Our times are in his hand who saith, a whole I planned, youth shows but half. Trust God, see all nor be afraid. Not that, amassing flowers, youth sighed, which rose make ours, which lily leave and then as best recall. Not that, admiring stars, it yearned, nor Jove nor Mars. Mine be some figured flame which blends, transcends them all. Not for such hopes and fears, annulling youth's brief years, do I remonstrate. Folly wide the mark. Rather I prize the doubt low kinds exist without, finished and finite clods, untroubled by a spark. Poor vaunt of life indeed, were man but formed to feed on joy, to solely seek and find the feast. Such feasting ended, then as sure an end to men. Irks care the cropful bird, frets doubt the maw-crammed beast. Rejoice, we are allied to that which doth provide and not partake, affect and not receive. A spark disturbs our clod, nearer we hold of God, who gives, than of his tribes that take, I must believe. Then welcome each rebuff that turns earth's smoothness rough, each sting that bids nor sit nor stand but go. Be our joys 3 parts pain, strive and hold cheap the strain, learn nor account the pang, dare never grudge the throe. For thence a paradox which comforts while it mocks. Shall life succeed in that it seems to fail? What I aspire to be, and was not, comforts me. A brute I might have been, but would not sink I' the scale. What is he but a brute, whose flesh has soul to suit, whose spirit works lest arms and legs want play? To man propose this test, thy body at its best, how far can that project thy soul on its lone way? Yet gifts should prove their use. I own the past profuse of power each side, perfection every turn. Eyes, ears took in their dole, brain treasured up the whole. Should not the heart beat once? How good to live and learn! Not once beat, praise be thine! I see the whole design. I, who saw power, see now love perfect too. Perfect I call thy plan. Thanks that I was a man. Maker, remake, complete, I trust what thou shalt do. For pleasant is this flesh. Our soul in its rose mesh, pulled ever to the earth, still yearns for rest. Would we some prize might hold to match those manifold possessions of the brute, gain most as we did best. Let us not always say, spite of this flesh today, I strove, made head, gained ground upon the whole. As the bird wings and sings, let us cry, all good things are ours, nor soul helps flesh more now than flesh helps soul. Therefore I summon age to grant youth's heritage, life's struggle having so far reached its term. Thence shall I pass, approved a man, for I removed from the developed brute, a god though in the germ. And I shall thereupon take rest, ere I be gone once more on my adventure brave and new, fearless and unperplexed, when I wage battle next, what weapons to select, what armor to endue. Youth ended, I shall try my gain or loss thereby, leave the fire ashes, what survives is gold, and I shall weigh the same, give life its praise or blame. Young, all lay in dispute, I shall know, being old. For note, when evening shuts, a certain moment cuts the deed off, calls the glory from the gray. A whisper from the west shoots, add this to the rest, take it and try its worth, here dies another day. So still within this life, though lifted o'er its strife, let me discern, compare, pronounce at last, this rage was right i' the main, that acquiescence vain. The future I may face now I have proved the past, for more is not reserved to man, with soul just nerved to act tomorrow what he learns today. Here, work enough to watch the master work, and catch hints of the proper craft, tricks of the tool's true play. As it was better youth should strive, through acts uncouth, toward making, than repose on aught found made. So better age, exempt from strife, should know, than tempt further. Thou waitest, age, wait death, nor be afraid. Enough now. If the right and good and infinite be named here, as thou callest thy hand thine own, with knowledge absolute, subject to no dispute from fools that crowded youth, nor let thee feel alone. Be there for once and all, sever great minds from small, announced to each his station in the past. Was I the world arraigned? Were they, my soul disdained, right? Let age speak the truth, and give us peace at last. Now who shall arbitrate? 10 men love what I hate, shun what I follow, slight what I receive. 10 who in ears and eyes match me. We all surmise, they this thing and I that. Whom shall my soul believe? Not on the vulgar mass, called work, must sentence pass. Things done, that took the eye and had the price, or which, from level stand, the low world laid its hand, found straightway to its mind, could value in a trice. But all, the world's coarse thumb and finger failed to plumb, so passed in making up the main account. All instincts immature, all purposes unsure, that weighed not as his work, yet swelled the man's amount. Thoughts hardly to be packed into a narrow act, fancies that broke through language and escaped. All I could never be, all men ignored in me. this I was worth to God, whose wheel the pitcher shaped. Ay, note that potter's wheel, that metaphor, and feel why time spins fast, why passive lies our clay thou, to whom fools propound, when the wine makes its round, since life fleets, all is change, the past gone, seize today. Fool, all that is, at all, lasts ever, past recall. Earth changes, but thy soul and God stand sure. What entered into thee, that was, is, and shall be. Time's wheel runs back or stops, potter and clay endure. He fixed thee mid this dance of plastic circumstance. This present thou forsooth wouldst fain arrest. Machinery just meant to give thy soul its bent, try thee and turn thee forth, sufficiently impressed. What though the earlier grooves which ran the laughing loves around thy base no longer pause and press? What though about thy rim skulk things in order grim, grow out in graver mood, obey the sterner stress? Look not thou down, but up, to uses of a cup, the festal board, lamps flash and trumpets peal, the new wine's foaming flow, the master's lips aglow. Thou, heaven's consummate cup, what needest thou with earth's wheel? But I need, now as then, thee, God, who mouldest men. And since, not even while the world was worst, did I, to the wheel of life with shapes and colors rife, bound dizzily, mistake my end to slake thy thirst. So take and use thy work, amend what flaws may lurk, what strain o'er the stuff, what warpings past the aim. My times be in thy hand, perfect the cup as planned. Let age approve of youth, and death complete the same. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rain in the Desert by John Gould Fletcher. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. The huge red buttressed mesa over yonder is merely a far-off temple where the sleepy sun is burning its altar fires of pinyon and toyon for the day. The old priests sleep, white-shrouded, their pottery whistles lie beside them, the prayer sticks closely feathered. On every mummied face there glows a smile. The sun is rolling slowly beneath the sluggish folds of the sky serpents, coiling, uncoiling, blue-black, sparked with fires. The old dead priests feel in the thin dried earth that is heaped about them, above the smell of scorching, oozing pinyon, the acrid smell of rain. And now the showers surround the mesa like a troop of silver dancers, shaking their rattles, stamping, chanting, roaring, whirling, extinguishing the last red wisp of light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reapers by Jean Toomer. Read for LibriVox.org by Crystal8608. Black reapers with the sound of steel on stones are sharpening scythes. I see them place the hones in their hip pockets as a thing that's done, and start their silent swinging, one by one. Black horses drive a mower through the weeds, and there a field rat, startled, squealing, bleeds, his belly close to ground. I see the blade, blood-stained, continue cutting weeds in shade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Religious Musings by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. by Peter Tucker. A desultory poem written on the Christmas Eve of 1794. This is the time when, most divine to hear, the voice of adoration rouses me, as with a cherub's trump, and high upborne, yea, mingling with the choir, I seem to view the vision of the heavenly multitude, who hymned the song of peace o'er Bethlehem's fields. Yet thou more bright than all the angel blaze that harbinged thy birth, thou man of woes, despised Galilean, for the great invisible, by symbols only seen, with a peculiar and surpassing light, shines from the visage of the oppressed good man, when heedless of himself the scourged saint mourns for the oppressor. Fair the vernal mead, fair the high grove, the sea, the sun, the stars, true impress each of their creating sire. Yet nor high grove, nor many-coloured mead, nor the green ocean with his 1,000 isles, nor the starred Asia, nor the sovereign sun, ere with such majesty of portraiture imaged the supreme beauty uncreate, as thou, meek Saviour, at the fearful hour when thy insulted anguish winged the prayer harped by archangels, when they sing of mercy, which when the Almighty heard from forth his throne, diviner light filled heaven with ecstasy. Heaven's hymnings paused, and hell her yawning mouth closed a brief moment. Lovely was the death of him whose life was love, holy with power he on the thought-benighted sceptic beamed manifest Godhead, melting into day what floating mists of dark idolatry broke and misshaped the omnipresent Sire. And first by fear uncharmed the drowsed soul, till of its nobler nature it gan feel dim recollections, and thence soared to hope, strong to believe whate'er of mystic good the eternal dooms for his immortal sons, from hope and firmer faith to perfect love attracted and absorbed, and centred there, God only to behold, and know, and feel, till by exclusive consciousness of God, all self annihilated, it shall make God its identity, God all in all, we and our Father one. And blessed are they, who in this fleshly world, the elect of heaven, their strong eye darting through the deeds of men, adore with steadfast unpresuming gaze him nature's essence, mind, and energy, and gazing, trembling, patiently ascend, treading beneath their feet all visible things as steps, that upward to their Father's throne lead gradual, else nor glorified nor loved, they nor contempt embosom nor revenge, for they dare know of what may seem deform the supreme fair soul operant, in whose sight all things are pure, his strong controlling love alike from all educing perfect good. Theirs too celestial courage, inly armed, dwarfing earth's giant brood, what time they muse on their great Father, great beyond compare, and marching onwards view high o'er their heads his waving banners of omnipotence, who the Creator love, created might, dread not, within their tents no terrors walk, for they are holy things before the Lord, aye unprofaned, though earth should league with hell. God's altar grasping with an eager hand, fear, the wild-visaged, pale, eye-starting wretch, sure refuged hears his hot pursuing fiends yell at vain distance. Soon refreshed from heaven, he calms the throb and tempest of his heart. His countenance settles, a soft solemn bliss swims in his eye, his swimming eye upraised, and faith's whole armour glitters on his limbs. And thus transfigured with a dreadless awe, a solemn hush of soul, meek he beholds all things of terrible seeming, yea, unmoved, views e'en the immitigable ministers that shower down vengeance on these latter days. For kindling with intenser deity, from the celestial mercy seat they come, and at the renovating wells of love have filled their vials with salutary wrath, to sickly nature more medicinal than what soft balm the weeping good man pours into the lone despoiled traveller's wounds. Thus from the elect, regenerate through faith, pass the dark passions, and what thirsty cares drink up the spirit, and the dim regards self-centre. Lo, they vanish, or acquire new names, new features, by supernal grace enrobed with light, and naturalized in heaven. As when a shepherd on a vernal morn through some thick fog creeps timorous with slow foot, darkling he fixes on the immediate road his downward eye, all else of fairest kind hid or deformed. But lo, the bursting sun, touched by the enchantment of that sudden beam, straight the black vapour melteth, and in globes of dewy glitter gems each plant and tree. On every leaf, on every blade it hangs. Dance glad the new-born intermingling rays, and wide around the landscape streams with glory. There is one mind, one omnipresent mind, omnific. His most holy name is love, truth of subliming import, with the which, who feeds and saturates his constant soul, he from his small particular orbit flies with blessed outstarting. From himself he flies, stands in the sun, and with no partial gaze views all creation, and he loves it all, and blesses it, and calls it very good. This is indeed to dwell with the Most High. Cherubs and rapture-trembling seraphim can press no nearer to the Almighty's throne, but that we roam unconscious, or with hearts unfeeling of our universal sire, and that in his vast family no Cain injures uninjured, in her best-aimed blow, victorious murder, a blind suicide. Haply for this some younger angel now looks down on human nature, and behold, a sea of blood bestrewed with wrecks, where mad, embattling interests on each other rush with unhelmed rage. 'Tis the sublime of man, our noontide majesty, to know ourselves, parts and proportions of one wondrous whole. This fraternizes man, this constitutes our charities and bearings, but 'tis God diffused through all, that doth make all one whole. This the worst superstition, him except aught to desire, supreme reality, the plenitude and permanence of bliss. O fiends of superstition, not that oft the erring priest hath stained with brothers' blood your grisly idols, not for this may wrath thunder against you from the Holy One, but o'er some plain that steameth to the sun, peopled with death, or where more hideous trade loud laughing packs his bales of human anguish, I will raise up a mourning, O ye fiends, and curse your spells that film the eye of faith, hiding the present God, whose presence lost, the moral world's cohesion, we become an anarchy of spirits. Toy bewitched, made blind by lusts, disherited of soul, no common centre man, no common sire knoweth. A sordid, solitary thing, mid countless brethren with a lonely heart, through courts and cities the smooth savage roams, feeling himself, his own low self the whole, when he by sacred sympathy might make the whole one self, self that no alien knows. Self, far diffused as fancy's wing can travel, self spreading still, oblivious of its own, yet all of all possessing. This is faith, this the Messiah's destined victory. But first offences needs must come, even now. Black hell laughs horrible, to hear the scoff. Thee to defend, meek Galilean, thee and thy mild laws of love unutterable, mistrust and enmity have burst the bands of social peace, and listening treachery lurks with pious fraud to snare a brother's life. And childless widows o'er the groaning land wail numberless, and orphans weep for bread. Thee to defend, dear Saviour of mankind, thee Lamb of God, thee blameless Prince of Peace. From all sides rush the thirsty brood of war. Austria and that foul woman of the north, the lustful murderess of her wedded lord. And he, connatural mind, whom, in their songs, so bards of elder time had haply feigned, some fury fondled in her hate to man, bidding her serpent hair in mazy surge lick his young face, and at his mouth imbreathe horrible sympathy, and leagued with these each petty German princeling nursed in gore, soul-hardened barterers of human blood, death's prime slave merchants, scorpion whips of fate, nor least in savagery of holy zeal, apt for the yoke, the race degenerate, whom Britain erst had blushed to call her sons. Thee to defend the Moloch priest prefers the prayer of hate, and bellows to the herd, that deity, accomplice deity, in the fierce jealousy of wakened wrath, will go forth with our armies and our fleets to scatter the red ruin on their foes. O blasphemy, to mingle fiendish deeds with blessedness. Lord of unsleeping love, from everlasting thou, we shall not die. These, even these, in mercy didst thou form, teachers of good through evil, by brief wrong making truth lovely, and her future might magnetic o'er the fixed untrembling heart. In the primeval age, a dateless while, the vacant shepherd wandered with his flock, pitching his tent where'er the green grass waved. But soon imagination conjured up an host of new desires. With busy aim, each for himself, earth's eager children toiled. So property began, twice streaming fount, whence vice and virtue flow, honey and gall. Hence the soft couch and many-coloured robe, the timbrel and arched dome and costly feast, with all the inventive arts that nursed the soul to forms of beauty, and by sensual wants unsensualized the mind, which in the means learned to forget the grossness of the end, best pleasured with its own activity. And hence disease that withers manhood's arm, the daggered envy, spirit-quenching want, warriors and lords and priests, all the sore ills that vex and desolate our mortal life, wide wasting ills, yet each the immediate source of mightier good. Their keen necessities, to ceaseless action goading human thought, have made earth's reasoning animal her lord, and the pale-featured sage's trembling hand strong as an host of armoured deities, such as the blind Ionian fabled erst. From avarice thus, from luxury and war, sprang heavenly science, and from science freedom. O'er-wakened realms philosophers and bards spread in concentric circles, they whose souls, conscious of their high dignities from God, brook not wealth's rivalry, and they who long, enamoured with the charms of order, hate the unseemly disproportion, and who e'er turn with mild sorrow from the victor's car and the low puppetry of thrones to muse on that blessed triumph when the patriot sage called the red lightnings from the o'er-rushing cloud, and dashed the beauteous terrors on the earth, smiling majestic. Such a phalanx ne'er measured firm paces to the calming sound of Spartan flute. These on the fated day, when, stung to rage by pity, eloquent men have roused with pealing voice the unnumbered tribes that toil and groan and bleed, hungry and blind. These, hushed awhile with patient eye serene, shall watch the mad careering of the storm, then o'er the wild and wavy chaos rush and tame the outrageous mass with plastic might, moulding confusion to such perfect forms, as erst were wont, bright visions of the day. To float before them, when the summer noon, beneath some arched romantic rock reclined, they felt the sea breeze lift their youthful locks. Or in the month of blossoms, at mild eve, wandering with desultory feet inhaled the wafted perfumes, and the flocks and woods, and many-tinted streams and setting sun, with all his gorgeous company of clouds, ecstatic gazed. Then homeward as they strayed, cast the sad eye to earth, and inly mused why there was misery in a world so fair. Ah, far removed from all that glads the sense, from all that softens or ennobles man, the wretched many, bent beneath their loads, they gape at pageant power, nor recognise their cot's transmuted plunder. From the tree of knowledge, ere the vernal sap had risen rudely disbranched, blessed society, fitliest depictured by some sun-scorched waste, where oft majestic through the tainted noon the simoom sails, before whose purple pomp who falls not prostrate dies, and where by night, fast by each precious fountain on green herbs, the lion couches, or hyena dips deep in the lucid stream his bloody jaws, or serpent plants his vast moon-glittering bulk, caught in whose monstrous twine behemoth yells, his bones loud crashing. O ye numberless, whom foul oppression's ruffian gluttony drives from life's plenteous feast! O thou poor wretch, who nursed in darkness and made wild by want, roamest for prey, yea, thy unnatural hand dost lift to deeds of blood. O pale-eyed form, the victim of seduction, doomed to know polluted nights and days of blasphemy, who in loathed orgies with lewd wassailers must gaily laugh, while thy remembered home gnaws like a viper at thy secret heart. O aged women, ye who weakly catch the morsel tossed by law-forced charity, and die so slowly that none call it murder. O loathly suppliants, ye that unreceived totter heart-broken from the closing gates of the full Lazar-house, or gazing, stand, sick with despair. O ye to glory's field, forced or ensnared, who, as ye gasp in death, bleed with new wounds beneath the vulture's beak. O thou poor widow, who in dreams dost view thy husband's mangled corse, and from short doze start'st with a shriek, or in thy half-thatched cot waked by the wintry night storm, wet and cold, cowerest over thy screaming baby. Rest a while, children of wretchedness. More groans must rise, more blood must stream, or ere your wrongs be full. Yet is the day of retribution nigh. The Lamb of God hath opened the fifth seal, and up would rush on swiftest wing of fire the innumerable multitude of wrongs by man on man inflicted. Rest a while, children of wretchedness. The hour is nigh, and lo, the great, the rich, the mighty men, the kings and the chief captains of the world, with all that fixed on high like stars of heaven, shot baleful influence, shall be cast to earth, vile and downtrodden, as the untimely fruit shook from the fig tree by a sudden storm. Even now the storm begins. Each gentle name, faith and meek piety, with fearful joy, tremble far off. For lo, the giant Frenzy, uprooting empires with his whirlwind arm, mocketh high heaven, burst hideous from the cell where the old hag, unconquerable, huge, creation's eyeless drudge, black ruin, sits nursing the impatient earthquake. O return! Pure faith, meek piety, the abhorred form whose scarlet robe was stiff with earthly pomp, who drank iniquity in cups of gold, whose names were many and all blasphemous, hath met the horrible judgment. Whence that cry? The mighty army of foul spirits shrieks disherited of earth, for she hath fallen on whose black front was written mystery. She that reeled heavily, whose wine was blood, she that worked whoredom with the demon power, and from the dark embrace all evil things brought forth and nurtured, mitred atheism, and patient folly who on bended knee gives back the steel that stabbed him, and pale fear, haunted by ghastlier shapings than surround moon-blasted madness when he yells at midnight. Return pure faith, return meek piety. The kingdoms of the world are yours, each heart self-governed, the vast family of love raised from the common earth by common toil enjoy the equal produce. Such delights as float to earth, permitted visitants. When in some hour of solemn jubilee the massy gates of paradise are thrown wide open, and forth come in fragments wild, sweet echoes of unearthly melodies, and odours snatched from beds of amaranth, and they, that from the crystal river of life spring up on freshened wing, ambrosial gales. The favoured good man in his lonely walk perceives them, and his silent spirit drinks strange bliss which he shall recognise in heaven. And such delights, such strange beatitudes seize on my young anticipating heart when that blessed future rushes on my view. For in his own and in his Father's might the Saviour comes, while as the 1,000 years lead up their mystic dance, the desert shouts, old ocean claps his hands, the mighty dead rise to new life, who ere from earliest time with conscious zeal had urged love's wondrous plan, coadjutors of God. To Milton's trump, the high groves of the renovated earth unbosom their glad echoes, inly hushed. Adoring Newton his serener eye raises to heaven, and he of mortal kind wisest, he first who marked the ideal tribes up the fine fibres through the sentient brain. Lo, priestly there, patriot and saint and sage, him, full of years, from his loved native land, statesman blood-stained and priests idolatrous, by dark lies maddening the blind multitude, drove with vain hate. Calm, pitying he retired, and mused expectant on these promised years. O years, the blessed preeminence of saints! Ye sweep athwart my gaze, so heavenly bright, the wings that veil the adoring seraph's eyes, what time they bend before the jasper throne, reflect no lovelier hues. Yet ye depart, and all beyond is darkness, heights most strange, whence fancy falls, fluttering her idle wing. For who of woman born may paint the hour, when seized in his mid-course the sun shall wane, making noon ghastly? Who of woman born may image in the workings of his thought how the black-visaged, red-eyed fiend outstretched beneath the unsteady feet of nature groans in feverous slumbers, destined then to wake when fiery whirlwinds thunder his dread name and angels shout destruction? How his arm, the last great spirit lifting high in air, shall swear by him, the ever-living one, time is no more. Believe thou, O my soul, life is a vision shadowy of truth, and vice and anguish and the wormy grave shapes of a dream. The veiling clouds retire, and lo, the throne of the redeeming God, forth flashing unimaginable day, wraps in one blaze earth, heaven, and deepest hell. Contemplant spirits, ye that hover o'er with untired gaze the immeasurable fount ebullient with creative deity, and ye of plastic power that interfused roll through the grosser and material mass in organising surge, holies of God, and what if monads of the infinite mind, I, haply journeying my immortal course, shall sometime join your mystic choir. Till then, I discipline my young and novice thought in ministries of heart-stirring song, and I on meditation's heavenward wing, soaring aloft, I breathe the imperial air of love, omnific, omnipresent love, whose dayspring rises glorious in my soul as the great sun, when he his influence sheds on the frost-bound waters. The glad stream flows to the ray and warbles as it flows. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sea Fever by John Masefield. Read for LibriVox.org by Adam Saunders, March 2021. I must down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied, and all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blown spume and the sea gulls crying. I must down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. All I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick's over. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Seed Shop by Muriel Stewart. Read for LibriVox.org by Emily Jacobson. Here in a quiet and dusty room they lie, faded as crumbled stone or shifting sand, forlorn as ashes, shriveled, scentless, dry, meadows and gardens running through my hand. Dead that shall quicken at the call of spring, sleepers to stir beneath June's magic kiss, though birds pass over unremembering, and no bee seek here roses that were his. In this brown husk a dale of hawthorn dreams, a cedar in this narrow cell is thrust, that will drink deeply of a century's streams. These lilies shall make summer on my dust. Here in their safe and simple house of death, sealed in their shells a million roses leap. Here I can blow a garden with my breath, and in my hand a forest lies asleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Silent Hour by Rainier Maria Rilke. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. Whoever weeps somewhere out in the world, weeps without cause in the world, weeps over me. Whoever laughs somewhere out in the night, laughs without cause in the night, laughs at me. Whoever wanders somewhere in the world, wanders in vain in the world, wanders to me. Whoever dies somewhere in the world, dies without cause in the world, looks at me. End of Silent Hour by Rainier Maria Rilke. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Solitude by Rainier Maria Rilke. Read for LibriVox.org by Tony Scheinman. Solitude is like a rain that from the sea at dusk begins to rise. It floats remote across the far-off plain, upward into its dwelling place, the skies. Then o'er the town it slowly sinks again. Like rain, it softly falls at that dim hour when ghostly lanes turn toward the shadowy morn, when bodies weighed with satiate passion's power, sad, disappointed, from each other turn, when men with quiet hatred burning deep together in a common bed must sleep. Through the grey phantom shadows of the dawn, lo, solitude floats down the river wan. End of Solitude by Rainier Maria Rilke. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
The Song of the Day Labourers by Ernest Jones. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. Sharpen the sickle, the fields are white, 'tis the time of the harvest at last. Reapers, be up with the morning light, ere the blush of its youth be past. Why stand on the highway and lounge at the gate, with a summer day's work to perform? If you wait for the hiring, 'tis long you may wait, till the hour of the night and the storm. Sharpen the sickle, how proud they stand in the pomp of their golden grain! But I'm thinking, ere noon, 'neath the sweep of my hand, how many will lie on the plain. Though the ditch be wide, the fence be high, there's a spirit to carry us o'er. For God never meant his people to die in sight of so rich a store. Sharpen the sickle, how full the ears! Our children are crying for bread, and the field has been watered with orphans' tears, and enriched with their fathers dead, and hopes that are buried, and hearts that broke, lie deep in the treasuring sod. Then sweep down the grain with a thunderstroke, in the name of humanity's God. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Song of the Factory Slave by Ernest Jones. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. The land it is the landlord's, the trader's is the sea, the ore the usurer's coffer fills, but what remains for me? The engine whirls for master's craft, the steel shines to defend, with labour's arms what labour raised, for labour's foe to spend. The camp, the pulpit, and the law, for rich men's sons are free. Theirs are learning, art, and arms, but what remains for me? The coming hope, the future day, when wrong to right shall bow, and hearts that have the courage, man, to make that future now. I pay for all their learning, I toil for all their ease, they render back in coin for coin, want, ignorance, disease. Toil, toil, and then a cheerless home, where hungry passions cross, eternal gain to them that give to me eternal loss. The hour of leisure happiness the rich alone may see, the playful child, the smiling wife, but what remains for me? The coming hope, the future day, when wrong to right shall bow, and hearts that have the courage, man, to make that future now. They render back, those rich men, a pauper's niggard fee, mayhap a prison, then a grave, and think they're quits with me. But not a fond wife's heart that breaks, a poor man's child that dies. We score not on our hollow cheeks, and in our sunken eyes. We read it there, whene'er we meet, and as the sum we see, each asks, the rich have got the earth, and what remains for me? The coming hope, the future day, when wrong to right shall bow, and hearts that have the courage, man, to make that future now. We bear the wrong in silence, we store it in our brain. They think us dull, they think us dead, but we shall rise again. A trumpet through the lands will ring, a heaving through the mass, a trampling through their palaces, until they break like glass. We'll cease to weep by cherished graves, from lonely homes we'll flee, and still as rolls our million march, its watchword brave shall be. The coming hope, the future day, when wrong to right shall bow, and hearts that have the courage, man, to make that future now. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Song of the Lower Classes by Ernest Jones, read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. We plough and sow, we're so very, very low that we delve in the dirty clay, till we bless the plain with the golden grain and the vale with the fragrant hay. Our place we know, we're so very low, 'tis down at the landlord's feet. We're not too low, the bread to grow, but too low the bread to eat. Down, down we go, we're so very, very low, to the hell of the deep-sunk mines, but we gather the proudest gems that glow when the crown of a despot shines, and whenever he lacks, upon our backs fresh loads he deigns to lay. We're far too low to vote the tax, but not too low to pay. We're low, mere rabble, we know, but at our plastic power, the mould at the lordling's feet will grow into palace and church and tower, then prostrate fall in the rich man's hall, and cringe at the rich man's door. We're not too low to build the wall, but too low to tread the floor. We're low, we're very, very low, yet from our fingers glide the silken flow, and the robes that glow round the limbs of the sons of pride. And what we get, and what we give, we know, and we know our share. We're not too low the cloth to weave, but too low the cloth to wear. We're low, we're very, very low, and yet when the trumpets ring, the thrust of a poor man's arm will go through the heart of the proudest king. We're low, our place we know, we're only the rank and file. We're not too low to kill the foe, but too low to touch the spoil. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Song of the Shirt by Thomas Hood, read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. With fingers weary and worn, with eyelids heavy and red, a woman sat in unwomanly rags, plying her needle and thread. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt. And still with a voice of dolorous pitch, she sang the song of the shirt. Work, 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 while the cock is crowing aloof, and work, 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 till the stars shine through the roof. It's oh, to be a slave, along with the barbarous Turk, where woman has never a soul to save, if this is Christian work. Work, 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 till the brain begins to swim. Work, 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 till the eyes are heavy and dim. Seam and gusset and band, band and gusset and seam, till over the buttons I fall asleep, and sew them on in a dream. O men with sisters dear, O men with mothers and wives, it is not linen you're wearing out, but human creatures' lives. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt. sewing at once with a double thread, a shroud as well as a shirt. But why do I talk of death, that phantom of grisly bone? I hardly fear his terrible shape. It seems so like my own. It seems so like my own, because of the fast I keep. O God, that bread should be so dear, and flesh and blood so cheap. Work, 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 my labor never flags. And what are its wages? A bed of straw, a crust of bread and rags, a shattered roof and this naked floor, a table, a broken chair, and a wall so blank, my shadow I thank for sometimes falling there. Work, 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 from weary chime to chime. Work, 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 as prisoners work for crime, band and gusset and seam, seam and gusset and band, till the heart is sick and the brain benumbed, as well as the weary hand. Work, 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 in the dull December light, and work, 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 when the weather is warm and bright, while underneath the eaves the brooding swallows cling, as if to show me their sunny backs, and twit me with the spring. Oh, but to breathe the breath of the cowslip and primrose sweet, with the sky above my head and the grass beneath my feet, for only one short hour, to feel as I used to feel before I knew the woes of want and the walk that costs a meal. Oh, but for one short hour, a respite however brief, no blessed leisure for love or hope, but only time for grief. A little weeping would ease my heart, but in their briny bed my tears must stop, for every drop hinders needle and thread. With fingers weary and worn, with eyelids heavy and red, a woman sat in unwomanly rags, plying her needle and thread, stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt, and still with a voice of dolorous pitch, would that its tone could reach the rich, she sang this song of the shirt. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Songs from an Evil Wood by Lord Dunsany. Recording from LibriVox.org. 1. There is no wrath in the stars. They do not rage in the sky. I look from the evil wood and find myself wondering why. Why do they not scream out and grapple star against star, seeking for blood in the wood, as all things round me are? They do not glare like the sky, or flash like the deeps of the wood, but they shine softly on in their sacred solitude. To their happy hunts, silence from us has flown. She whom we loved of old and know it now, she is gone. When will she come again? Though for 1 second only, she whom we loved is gone, and the whole world is lonely. The elder giants come, sometimes tramping from far, through the weird and flickering light made by an earthly star. And the giant with his club, and the dwarf with rage in his breath, and the elder giants from far, they are the children of death. They are abroad tonight, and are breaking the hills with their brood, and the birds are all asleep, even in Plug Street Wood. 2. Somewhere lost in the haze, the sun goes down in the cold, and birds in this evil wood chirrup home as of old. Chirrup, stir, and are still on the high twigs, frozen and thin. There is no more noise of them now, and the long night sets in. Of all the wonderful things that I have seen in the wood, I marvel most at the birds, at their chirp and at their quietude. For a giant smites with his club all day the tops of the hill. Sometimes he rests at night, oftener he beats them still. And a dwarf with a grim black mane raps with repeated rage all night in the valley below on the wooden walls of his cage. 3. I met with death in his country, with his scythe and his hollow eye, walking the roads of Belgium. I look and he passed me by. Since he passed me by in Plug Street, in the wood of the evil name, I shall not now lie with the heroes, I shall not share their fame, I shall never be as they are, a name in the land of the free, since I looked on death in Flanders, and he did not look at me. End of Songs from an Evil Wood. This recording is in the public domain.
The State of Innocence and Fall of Man. Excerpt by John Dryden, 1631 to 1700. Read for LibriVox.org. Act 4, Scene 1. Paradise. The cloud descends with 6 angels in it, and when it is near the ground, breaks, and on each side discovers 6 more. They descend out of the cloud. Raphael and Gabriel discourse with Adam. The rest stand at a distance. Raphael. First of mankind, that we from heaven are sent, is from heaven's care thy ruin to prevent. The apostate angel has by night been here, and whispered through thy sleeping consort's ear delusive dreams. Thus warned by us, beware, and guide her frailty by thy timely care. Gabriel. These, as thy guards from outward harms, are sent. Ills from within thy reason must prevent. Adam. Natives of heaven, who in compassion deign to want that place where joys immortal reign, in care of me, what praises can I pay? Descended in obedience, taught to obey? Raphael. Praise him alone, who godlike formed thee free, with will unbounded as a deity, who gave the reason as thy aid, to choose apparent good and evil to refuse. Obedience is that good, this heaven exacts, and heaven, all just, from man requires not acts, which man wants power to do. Power then is given of doing good, but not compelled by heaven. Gabriel. Made good, that thou dost to thy Maker owe, but to thyself, if thou continuest so. Adam. Freedom of will of all good things is best, but can it be by finite man possessed? I know not how heaven can communicate what equals man to his Creator's state. Raphael. Heaven cannot give his boundless power away, but boundless liberty of choice he may. So orbs from the first mover motion take, yet each their proper revolutions make. Adam. Grant heaven could once have given us liberty, are we not bounded now by firm decree, since whatsoe'er is preordained must be? Else heaven for man events must preordain, and man's free will might make those orders vain. Gabriel. The Eternal, when he did the world create, all other agents did necessitate. So what he ordered they by nature do, Thus light things mount, and heavy downward go. Man only boasts an arbitrary state. Adam. Yet causes their effects necessitate in willing agents. Where is freedom then? Or who can break the chain which limits men to act what is unchangeably forecast, since the first cause gives motion to the last? Raphael. Heaven, by foreknowing what will surely be, does only first effects in causes see, and finds, but does not make necessity. Creation is of power and will the effect, foreknowledge only of his intellect. His prescience makes not, but supposes things, infers necessity to be, not brings. Thus thou art not constrained to good or ill. Causes which work the effect force not the will. Adam. The force unseen and distant I confess, but the long chain makes not the bondage less. Even man himself may to himself seem free, and think that choice which is necessity. Gabriel. And who but man should judge of man's free state? Adam. I find that I can choose to love or hate, obey or disobey, do good or ill, yet such a choice is but consent, not will. I can but choose what he at first designed, for he, before that choice, my will confined. Gabriel. Such impious fancies, where they entrance gain, make heaven all pure, that crimes to preordain. Adam. Far, far from me be banished such a thought. I argue only to be better taught. Can there be freedom, when what now seems free was founded on some first necessity? For whate'er cause can move the will to elect must be sufficient to produce the effect. And what sufficient must effectual be, then how is man thus forced by causes free? Raphael. Sufficient causes only work the effect, when necessary agents they respect. Such is not man, who, though the cause suffice, yet often he his free assent denies. Adam. What causes not is not sufficient still. Gabriel. Sufficient in itself, not in thy will. Raphael. When we see causes joined to effects at last, the chain but shows necessity that's past. Then what's done is ridiculous proof of fate. Tell me which part it does necessitate. I'll cruise the other, then I'll link the effect. O chain, which fools to catch themselves project! Adam. Though no constraint from heaven or causes be, heaven may prevent that ill he does foresee, and not preventing, though he does not cause, he seems to will that men should break his laws. Gabriel. Heaven may permit, but not to ill consent, for hindering ill we would all choice prevent. 'Twere to unmake, to take away the will. Adam. Better constrained to good, than free to ill. Raphael. But what reward or punishment could be, if man to neither good or ill were free? The eternal justice could decree no pain to him whose sins itself did first ordain. And good compelled could no reward exact. His power would shine in goodness, not thy act. Our task is done. Obey, and in that choice thou shalt be blessed, and angels shall rejoice. Raphael and Gabriel fly up in the cloud, the other angels go off. Adam. Hard state of life! Since heaven foreknows my will, why am I not tied up from doing ill? Why am I trusted with myself at large, when he's more able to sustain the charge? Since angels fell, whose strength was more than mine, 'twould show more grace my frailty to confine. Foreknowing the success, to leave me free, excuses him, and yet supports not me. End of excerpt. This recording is in the public domain.
This Lime Tree Bower, My Prison, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Tucker. Addressed to Charles Lamb of the India House, London. In the June of 1797, some long-expected friends paid a visit to the author's cottage, and on the morning of their arrival he met with an accident which disabled him from walking during the whole time of their stay. One evening, when they had left him for a few hours, he composed the following lines in the garden bower. Well, they are gone, and here must I remain, this lime-tree bower my prison. I have lost beauties and feelings, such as would have been most sweet to my remembrance even when age had dimmed mine eyes to blindness. They, meanwhile, friends, whom I never more may meet again, on springy heath, along the hilltop edge, wander in gladness and wind down, perchance, to that still roaring dell of which I told. The roaring dell, o'er-wooded, narrow, deep, and only speckled by the midday sun, where its slim trunk the ash from rock to rock flings arching like a bridge, that branchless ash, unsunned and damp, whose few poor yellow leaves ne'er tremble in the gale, yet tremble still, fanned by the waterfall. And there my friends behold the dark green file of long lank weeds, that all at once, a most fantastic sight, still nod and drip beneath the dripping edge of the blue clay stone. Now my friends emerge beneath the wide, wide heaven, and view again the many-steepled tract magnificent of hilly fields and meadows, and the sea, with some fair bark perhaps whose sails light up the slip of smooth clear blue betwixt two isles of purple shadow. Yes, they wander on in gladness all, but thou, methinks, most glad, my gentle-hearted Charles, for thou hast pined and hungered after nature many a year. In the great city pent, winning thy way with sad yet patient soul, through evil and pain and strange calamity, slowly sink behind the western ridge, thou glorious sun. Shine in the slant beams of the sinking orb, ye purple heath flowers, richly aburn, ye clouds. Live in the yellow light, ye distant groves, and kindle, thou blue ocean. So my friend, struck with deep joy, may stand, as I have stood, silent with swimming sense, yea, gazing round on the wide landscape, gaze till all doth seem less gross than bodily, and of such hues as veil the Almighty Spirit, when yet he makes spirits perceive his presence. A delight comes sudden on my heart, and I am glad as I myself were there. Nor in this bower, this little lime-tree bower, have I not marked much that has soothed me. Pale beneath the blaze hung the transparent foliage, and I watched some broad and sunny leaf, and loved to see the shadow of the leaf and stem above dappling its sunshine. And that walnut tree was richly tinged, and a deep radiance lay full on the ancient ivy, which usurps those fronting elms, and now, with blackest mass, makes their dark branches gleam a lighter hue through the late twilight. And though now the bat wheels silent by, and not a swallow twitters, yet still the solitary humble bee sings in the bean-flower. Henceforth I shall know that nature ne'er deserts the wise and pure. No plot so narrow be but nature there, no waste so vacant but may well employ each faculty of sense, and keep the heart awake to love and beauty. And sometimes 'tis well to be bereft of promised good, that we may lift the soul and contemplate with lively joy the joys we cannot share. My gentle-hearted Charles, when the last rook beat its straight path along the dusky air homewards, I blessed it, deeming its black wing, now a dim speck, now vanishing in light, had crossed the mighty orb's dilated glory, while thou stoodst gazing, or when all was still, flew creaking o'er thy head, and had a charm for thee, my gentle-hearted Charles, to whom no sound is dissonant which tells of life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To the Sundial by John Quincy Adams. Read for LibriVox.org by Alexander Judy, March 19th, 2021. Thou silent herald of time's silent flight, say, couldst thou speak, what warning voice were thine? Shade, who canst only show how others shine. Dark, sullen witness of resplendent light, in day's broad glare and when the nude tide bright of laughing fortune sheds the ray divine, thy ready favors cheer us, but decline. The clouds of morning and the gloom of night, yet are thy counsels faithful, just, and wise. They bid us seize the moments as they pass, snatch the retrieveless sunbeam as it flies, nor lose one sand of life's revolving glass, aspiring still with energy sublime by virtuous deeds to give eternity time. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Swallow Building Under Our Eaves by Jane Welsh Carlyle. Read for LibriVox.org by czandra. To a swallow building under our eaves. Thou too hast travelled, little fluttering thing, hast seen the world, and now thy weary wing thou too must rest. But much, my little bird, couldst thou but tell, I'd give to know why here thou likest so well to build thy nest. For thou hast passed fair places in thy flight, a world lay all beneath thee where to light, and strange thy taste, of all the varied scenes that met thine eye, of all the spots for building 'neath the sky, to choose this waste. Did fortune try thee? Was thy little purse perchance run low, and thou, afraid of worse, felt here secure? Ah no, thou needst not gold, thou happy one, thou know'st it not. Of all God's creatures man alone is poor. What was it then? Some mystic turn of thought, caught under German eaves and hither brought, marring thine eye for the world's loveliness, till thou art grown a sober thing that dost but mope and moan, not knowing why? Nay, if thy mind be sound, I need not ask, since here I see thee working at thy task with wing and beak. A well-laid scheme doth that small head contain, at which thou work'st, brave bird, with might and main, nor more needst seek. In truth, I rather take it thou hast got, by instinct wise, much sense about thy lot, and hast small care whether an Eden or a desert be thy home, so thou remainst alive and free to skim the air. God speed thee, pretty bird. May thy small nest with little ones all in good time be blessed. I love thee much, for well thou managest that life of thine, while I, oh, ask not what I do with mine. Would I were such. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Trial by Existence by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Even the bravest that are slain shall not dissemble their surprise, on waking to find valor reign, even as on earth in paradise. And where they sought without the sword wide fields of asphodel for air, to find that the utmost reward of daring should be still to dare. The light of heaven falls whole and white, and is not shattered into dyes. The light forever is morning light, the hills are vedured pasture-wise. The angel hosts with freshness go, and seek with laughter what to brave, and binding all is the hushed snow of the far distant breaking wave. And from a cliff top is proclaimed the gathering of the souls for birth, the trial by existence named, the obscuration upon earth. And the slant spirits trooping by in streams and cross and counter streams can but give ear to that sweet cry for its suggestion of what dreams. And the more loitering are turned to view once more the sacrifice of those who for some good discerned will gladly give up paradise. And a white shimmering concourse rolls toward the throne to witness there the speeding of devoted souls, which God makes his especial care. And none are taken but who will, having first heard the life read out, that opens earthward, good and ill, beyond the shadow of a doubt. And very beautifully God limns and tenderly life's little dream, but not extenuates or dims, setting the thing that is supreme. Nor is there wanting in the press some spirit to stand simply forth, heroic in its nakedness, against the uttermost of earth. The tale of earth's unhonored things sounds nobler than 'neath the sun, and the mind whirls and the heart sings, and a shout greets the daring one. But always God speaks at the end. One thought in agony of strife the bravest would have by for friend the memory that he chose the life. But the pure fate to which you go admits no memory of choice, or the woe were not earthly woe to which you give the assenting voice. And so the choice must be again, but the last choice is still the same, and the awe passes wonder then, and a hush falls for all acclaim. And God has taken a flower of gold and broken it, and used therefrom the mystic link to bind and hold spirit to matter till death come. 'Tis of the essence of life here, though we choose greatly still to lack the lasting memory at all clear, that life has for us on the rack, nothing but what we somehow chose. Thus are we wholly stripped of pride in the pain that has but one close, bearing it crushed and mystified. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Troubadour by W. S. Gilbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Mauma. A troubadour he played without a castle wall. Within, a hapless maid responded to his call. Oh, willow, woe is me, alack and well a day! If I were only free, I'd hie me far away. Unknown her face and name, but this he knew right well. The maiden's wailing came from out a dungeon cell. A hapless woman lay within that prison grim. That fact, I've heard him say, was quite enough for him. I will not sit or lie, or eat or drink, I vow, till thou art free as I, or I as pent as thou. Her tears then ceased to flow, her wails no longer rang, and tuneful in her woe the prisoned maiden sang. O stranger, as you play, I recognize your touch, and all that I can say is, thank you very much. He seized his clarion straight, and blew thereat until a warder oped the gate. Oh, what might be your will? I've come, sir knave, to see the master of these halls. A maid unwillingly lies prisoned in their walls. With barely stifled sigh, that porter drooped his head, with teardrops in his eye. Ah, Mamie, sir, he said. He stayed to hear no more, but pushed that porter by, and shortly stood before Sir Hugh de Peckham Rye. Sir Hugh he darkly frowned. What would you, sir, with me? The troubadour he downed upon his bended knee. I've come, de Peckham Rye, to do a Christian task. You ask me what would I? It is not much I ask. Release these maidens, sir, whom you dominion o'er, particularly her upon the second floor. And if you don't, my lord? He here stood bolt upright, and tapped a tailor's sword. Come out at once, and fight! Sir Hugh he called, and ran the warden from the gate. Go show this gentleman the maid in 48. By many a cell they passed, and stopped at length before a portal bolted fast. The man unlocked the door. He called inside the gate, with coarse and brutal shout, Come up, 848, and 48 stepped out. They gets it pretty hot, the maidens what we cotch. 2 years this lady's got, for collaring a watch. Oh, indeed, I see, the troubadour exclaimed. If I may make so free, how is this castle named? The warden's eyelids fill, and sighing he replied, "Of gloomy Pentonville, this is the female side." The minstrel did not wait the warden stout to thank, but recollected straight he'd business at the bank. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Twa Sisters, read by Sandra for LibriVox.org. Traditional Ballad. There was twa sisters in a bower, Binaree, oh Binaree. There was twa sisters in a bower, Binaree, oh Binaree. There was twa sisters in a bower, there came a knight to be their wooer, by the bonny mill dams of Binaree. He courted the eldest with glove and ring, but he loved the youngest above anything. He courted the eldest with brooch and knife, but loved the youngest as his life. The eldest, she was vexed sair, and much envied her sister fair. Into her bower she could not rest, with grief and spite she almost brest. Upon a morning fair and clear, she cried upon her sister dear, "O sister, come to yon sea strand, and see our father's ships come to land." She's ta'en her by the milk-white hand, and led her down to yon sea strand. The youngest stood upon a stane, the eldest came and threw her in. She took her by the middle smaw, and dashed her bonny back to the jaw. "O sister, sister, take my hand, and I'se make ye heir to all my land. O sister, sister, take my middle, and yes, get my gold and my golden girdle. O sister, sister, save my life, and I swear I'd never be nae man's wife. Foul for the hand that I should take, it twined me in my wordle's make. Your cherry cheeks and yellow hair gars me gay maiden for evermair." Sometimes she sank and sometimes she swam, till she came down yon bonny mill dam. Oh, out it came the miller's son, and saw the fair maid swimming in. "Oh, father, father, draw your dam, there's either a mermaid or a swan." The miller quickly drew the dam, and there he found a drowned woman. You couldna see her yellow hair for gold and pearl that were so rare. You couldna see her middle smaw for golden girdle that was so braw. You couldna see her fingers white for golden rings that was sae great. And by there came a harper fine that harped to the king at dine. When he did look that lady upon, he sighed and made a heavy moan. He's ta'en 3 locks of her yellow hair, and with them strung his harp sae fair. The first tune he did play and sing was "Farewell to my father the king." The next tune that he played syne was "Farewell to my mother the queen." The last tune that he played then was "Wae to my sister fair Aeolian." Note: it twined me and my wordle's make is it separated me from my world's mate. End of poem.
The Unseen Playmate by Robert Louis Stevenson, read for LibriVox.org by TallyTiger. The Unseen Playmate. When children are playing alone on the green, in comes the playmate that never was seen. When children are happy and lonely and good, the friend of the children comes out of the wood. Nobody heard him and nobody saw. His is a picture you never could draw, but he is sure to present abroad or at home when children are happy and playing alone. He lies in the laurels, he runs on the grass, he thinks when you tinkle the musical glass. When you are happy and cannot tell why, the friend of the children is sure to be by. He loves to be little, he hates to be big. 'Tis he that inhabits the cave that you dig. 'Tis he you play with your soldiers of tin, that sides with the Frenchman and never can win. 'Tis he, when at night you go off to your bed, bids you to go to your sleep and not trouble your head. For wherever they're lying, in cupboard or shelf, this he will take care of, your playthings himself. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Women Who Are at Home by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by M. Lee. They are as brave as any man who goes forward to face our foes on battle fronts, these women of each land who proudly take their stand, and with no protest face and not shirk the unaccustomed work, which helps the ship of state to ride the wave with banners flying brave as any soldier at the front. I say, these women are who do men's work today. The warriors of the world could not be fed, or clothed or comforted. The nations could not carry on their toil, did they not till the soil, and keep the wheels of action moving on. These women from whose homes the men have gone, husbands and fathers, brothers, sons, to fight in this great cause of justice and of right, against inhuman might. Theirs are the wounds no medicine can heal, the anguish that they feel may not be uttered with a smiling face. Each fills her lonely place and sends a cheering message overseas. Oh, it is such as these who give the radiance of an aura flame to sanctify the name of womanhood. Unto this noble throng honor and praise and gratitude belong. Low at their feet I lay my leaf of song. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
You Cannot Put a Fire Out by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Kaluna on March 3rd, 2021. You cannot put a fire out. A thing that can ignite can go itself without a fan upon the slowest night. You cannot fold a flood and put it in a drawer, because the winds would find it out and tell your cedar floor. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.